Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Grand Theft Auto 5 video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about 10 things you need to know before buying the Progen Gp1 supercar that was just added today in Grand Theft Auto Online. We're going to be looking at some hidden details, some secret features, and just some general things you had no idea about revolving around this new car. So let's not waste any more time, and let's jump straight into it. Obviously, the first barrier to this vehicle is going to be price. And the price of this car is $1.26 million, which is actually not terrible when you consider looking at some of the other supercars in the game, especially some of the other Progen cars like the T20, which is $2.2 million, the Tyrus $2.55. This is actually not that bad, especially when you consider some of the other supercars added with import-export like the Tempesta, and you've also got the Penetrator and the Nero. It's not terrible. However, I know everyone doesn't have a spare $1.26 million laying around, so what I'm doing right now is another shark card giveaway that's going on my Twitter account right now. So I'll leave a link to that in the description. Be sure to check it out. I think I'm going to end that on Friday or Saturday. I'm giving away $1.25 million, which is basically a free GP1 supercar. So links to that in the description. But that's the first barrier. That is price. $1.26 million. And I'll talk about a little bit later why I think that's good, but also in another area why I think that's really, really bad. So let's start with customization first. And wow, this car is incredible when it comes to customization. I mean, you'll see right out of the gate, we have 21 categories to upgrade, and many of the categories like bumpers will have two, the headlight covers. We've got so many things we can go through here. Bumpers, hood catches, headlight covers, the hood itself. You've got so many things like skirts and spoilers, and you can change up the interior a little bit by modifying the colors. There's so many things you can do to these cars. And I mean, each one of the categories themselves has about like 13 or 14 different customization options you can do within each one. It's absolutely insane the level of detail that Rockstar went in here. I mean, there's 4 different types of skirts. There's 12 different types of spoilers. I think there's 10 or 11 different types of bumper options. There's a couple diffusers as well that can go on the rear bumper. There's modifications you can make to the engine in the back itself. There's so many different things you can do to this car. So as far as customization goes, for a non-Benny's vehicle, I think this is the best supercar in the game. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous the level of customization you get on this vehicle for it being just a regular one that you use in the Los Santos custom shop. So to me, that is a huge plus. I think that cars that have a lot of customization are amazing because you don't have to use the customization, but at least the option is there. So as far as modifying this car goes, it gets a huge A++ rating from me. I absolutely love the fact that this car has so much customization to it. However, there are a couple things we need to talk about regarding the customization itself. So the first thing we need to talk about is window tint. So this typically wouldn't be a big deal. However, the way the GP1 is shaped with those like 2 windows on the rear, if you darken them, it's also going to darken those, which I wouldn't recommend because then you can't see the amazing engine on the inside, which number 1 looks incredible, but also number 2, it is kind of cool to see the engine itself. So do keep that in mind. If you are going to darken the windows, you are going to reduce the visibility of what you can see inside of the car in terms of the engine bay, which I think looks pretty awesome. The next thing we need to look at is exhaust. Now, this is one thing that kind of bothers me. There's a lot of exhaust options, which is great. However, if you change to a different exhaust, like one that isn't featured on the stock one, you're just going to have these open holes in the back of the car near the wheels. They obviously don't go away like it's a different body design. So to me, that really only makes 4 or 5 different exhaust options usable because I hate to see that empty black space where the exhaust probably should be. So that's another thing to keep in mind. A lot of vehicles are like that. I guess it's just the way Rockstar designed their cars, but the Progen Gp1 certainly falls into the same fate there. So that's a little thing that bothers me. It might not necessarily bother you. The next thing that's kind of interesting is the wheels of this car. You actually can't get a color by default. So because they're chrome by default, you actually can't change it to a different color using the iFruit app, which again is a little unfortunate, but nonetheless, I still think the wheels are amazing. It would be cool to like change it up to like a black or a white color or something like that. Moving on, and speaking of colors, the respray options actually do a lot. So you've obviously got the exterior color, and then you've got the trim color, which changes a whole lot on the inside, as you guys can see right here. I mean, we are changing a ton to this vehicle. So if you want to change the interior of your car, the trim color is the way to go. However, there's this one piece that is not affected by the trim color, and it's actually the primary color. It's like this seat belt buckle, and you can see as we're changing the primary color here, it is getting changed as well. And I thought this was really weird. Why Rockstar didn't just make everything inside revolve around the trim color, I have absolutely no clue, but that is still kind of interesting right there. The next thing to note about this car is the spoiler. You'll notice that as we change it, our traction bonus is not increasing, and that's because this car does not benefit from receiving a spoiler. So I am not a racing expert by any means, but that means that this car is affected by downforce, I believe, since it doesn't get a spoiler bonus. And you'll see as we get a little bit later on and we talk about the performance, what sort of issues you might have with a car like this. However, you don't need to apply a spoiler if you're looking for a traction bonus, because whether you have one or you don't, it's not going to make a difference. Now, moving on to the inside of the car, one thing that kind of bothered me about the steering wheel was two things. Number one is it seems to get in the way of like the top third of all the dials and gauges, which to me is a little obnoxious because in first person, this car looks amazing, has a really good interior, but when half the gauges and dials are cut off, that's kind of a buzzkill right there. So I don't know why that's the case. And also the clothing clips through the steering wheel like crazy. You can see my knees are like going straight through the steering wheel right now. I don't know if this is just a first time issue or if this is something that Rockstar can patch, but right now it's a little bit buggy, especially with the way your character sits and the way that it blocks some dials and some gauges from you. Now, the only other thing I thought was pretty cool was the customization option on the headlight. You actually have the option to essentially close it off, put a headlight cover. And I was actually curious if this would prevent you from using your lights outside if you had this on. And yeah, that's the case. If you apply one of these headlight covers and you go outside and you try to use your lights, it's not going to work. The lights are not going to shine through, which I think is pretty cool. And that might be obvious, but there's some vehicles that don't necessarily work that way. So it is interesting to see the GP1 actually be affected like that. So aside from one or two cosmetic things that I don't love, so far, if we're just looking at the appearance and the customization and the cosmetics of the car, so far it's a winner. However, we're about to shift gears a little bit, and unfortunately, this is where things turn south for the Progen GP1 when we get into performance. So according to racing YouTuber Broughy1322, who did way more of an in-depth test on this, I'll leave links to his videos in the description, the Progen GP1 is not good. I think he said it's somewhere along the lines of like the 20th or 21st best supercar in the game, which is not good at all. It doesn't make it competitive at all in races, and I don't know if that has to do with the lack of a traction bonus from a spoiler. I've played around with it in free mode for about 30 to 45 minutes. I've done a couple races with it, and I've noticed that it is not that great at all. So for racing and performance-wise, this is not a great car. If you're looking to stay in the Progen family, the Itali GTB, the T20, and certainly the Tyrus are going to be your best bets. This car is probably going to be a show one, and one that you probably don't want to take out on the track or in racing, because performance-wise, it just does not stack up to the rest of the vehicles. I mean, the difference between the best supercar and the 20th or 21st is a huge difference. So unfortunately, the performance-wise of this car is not that great, and this is a huge bummer. I mean, even if this car had just been average, like at least 10th or 12th in terms of its performance, it would have been acceptable. But that's where it might have a hard time justifying spending $1.26 million on this car if it's just going to be one you cruise around and use for car shows, because in racing, I'm definitely not going to be wagering my placing on the Progen GP1. As cool as it is and as great of customization as it has, it certainly just doesn't keep up with the other vehicles, which is a little disappointing. So to give you guys my final review here, I think the price is very reasonable, in line with some of the other supercars we've seen recently. The customization is out of this world. It is absolutely outstanding. Probably the best of any non-Benny supercar that we've seen so far, which is really saying something. So I'm thoroughly impressed with that. There are a few cosmetic things that bug me, but overall, if you just try to ignore them or you use customization options that won't show those cosmetic features, then you should be good to go there. However, performance-wise, it is a huge bust, and that might have a huge impact on your purchasing decision if you're considering buying this car, or if you've yet to buy it and you're contemplating on getting it either today or in the next couple days. So that's pretty much my final review right there. I love this car. I think a lot of people like Progen. It's a very popular, obviously based off of McLaren, and this one, the F1 in particular. But I don't know, in a week or two, am I going to be using this anymore? I'm not sure, especially because it's not all that great in races, and that's going to be a huge downside to really, other than just when I want to cruise around or do some car shows with this vehicle. But that's really all the information I have for you guys in this video today regarding the brand new Progen GP1 and 15 things you need to know before making your buying decision. Remember, I've got a shark card giveaway going on in the description, giving away $1.25 million. So be sure to check that out. That's going to be ending, like I said, in a couple days. If you guys did go on and enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new or you like daily GTA 5 videos like this. With all the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.